Hey guys, welcome back to Comic Book Core. We're your hosts. My name's Krosh.
I'm Briston.
I'm Ken.
I'm Victor.
We got Victor back here, thankfully. Missed you, man. It's been a while.
Thank you.
We're going to start things off today with a super theme going on. We got Superman books all around.
Got Son of Superman.
Superman Last Son.
It's a bird.
All-Star Superman.
And let's get things started off. Ken, you want to start things off?
One of my choices was Son of Superman. It's by Howard Chaykin and J.H. Williams. One of the things that made me think about it recently was all the talk of J.H. Williams doing Batwoman stuff and that being collected now.
Yeah.
So that was what inspired me for this. This is a classic Elseworld stories. Elseworld is equivalent to also what Marvel calls What If.
Yeah.
It's just, this is different stories just on like tangents.
No continuity required.
No
really,
continuity,
just
no.
basic.
You know who Superman is, you've got it from there. It's got some beautiful art in there, of course. J.H. Williams earlier on.
Knocks it out.
And just he has such emotion in some of the faces where, like when John Kent, who's the son of Superman, which in this continuity, him and Lois had a child together, and then at some point Superman disappeared from the world. Like he went off on a mission and just disappeared. So Lois has been raising John alone, and he's now in high school, he's starting dating and stuff like that, and he discovers he's now actually getting powers. They didn't think this was going to manifest. It's somewhat actually, Invincible reminded me of this. When Invincible came out, like, oh wait, okay, so the same kind of concept. He just gets him as a kid. His dad was already this big, huge guy, but he starts getting his powers and decided where he fits in the world now. Where superheroes are still out there, but they're very different. It's corporate America's taken over.
Okay.
It's become different, so yeah.
Is Lex's presence still around?
Yes, Lex is actually in charge of LexCorp still, which is it's got its fingers in everything, of course.
It's pretty interesting that, so you see Superman in like a father role where like you see him in regular continuity, he's always the son of Jor-El, the son of Pa Kent, he's always in that son role, still learning, and now, I don't know if you see him as much as, what do I do now as a father? I'm like a role model.
It's there, but very low because the focus is more on Jonathan, and one of the things is too, is like it's not to spoil it too much, they put it on the back jacket, but he does return in the story. But it's a little bit in, so it's like he's not there to be the father figure. In fact, he tries to assert himself. He's like, you have to listen to me. And it's like, John's like, what are you talking about? You've never been around. And he's like, and for Jonathan, he hasn't been, not to, Superman's fault, He's not like movie Superman where he's a homewrecker and he, runs out on his kids and whatnot. It's very different.
Alright, that's pretty interesting. I mean, I haven't read it, but I know. I love J.H. Williams' art alone, and Howard Chaykin I've heard always good things about. Good stories. He also draws, right?
David Tishman, too. Yes, he does.
Okay.
Yeah,
They co-wrote it?
They co-wrote it, yeah.
Okay. It's a good book.
And Macy Gray.
And Macy Gray. Macy Gray. Also known as Mick. It might get you mixed up. But yeah, it's a pen name for her.
Have you read it, Victor?
No, it is one of my top reads. I've been wanting to read for a while.
Yeah, I haven't read it either, but...
As with most, everybody who reads comics a lot, you have this, this queue of, okay, I gotta get to that book, gotta get to that book. And you're just like, somewhere on there, I'll get to it.
But then new books keep on popping out, and
Yep.
your list just gets larger, or things get pushed around, so...
The things we deal with as comic readers. I mean,
so
it's
frustrating.
Same thing for TV shows, though, for us. It's like, somebody's like, oh, you gotta watch Dexter. And you're like, I'm just barely getting done with Lost. Are you kidding me? Give me a minute. I need a moment, please. And then you start Dexter.
Lost is over now. What's your excuse?
Yeah. I'm still reeling from that, okay? I lost a 6-year-old friend.
Lazy
okay?
excuse. Lazy.
It's coming from you.
I'm the worst offender.
Victor, how about you? What's your pick this week?
My pick is Superman Last Son. This, unlike Ken's book, actually takes place on Earth 1, the main DC universe.
Earth Prime.
No, it's not Earth Prime. How dare you? Earth 616.
They're just...
Thank you.
616.
Yeah, it's the crossover.
But
Okay.
it's written by Jeff Johns and his buddy Richard Donner, who directed the first 2 Superman movies with Christopher Reeves, and drawn by one of the great artists, Adam Kubert, who, if you remember, is one of my favorite artists. This book, basically, all of a sudden in Metropolis, a Kryptonian child shows up, and yeah, it blows your mind. Whoa. But basically, he's kind of orphaned. He has no idea what's going on. He's alone in the world, and obviously, Clark Kent kind of creates a bond with him. Obviously, being an orphan Kryptonian child and stuff like that.
There's a nice little orphanage institution that you need to have like Kryptonians from now on. Like, oh, you can drop in from Krypton. All right,
wait, don't worry, go over here.
Some paperwork for you here.
But it's really cool that they base that story around that idea. You know, so like someone that started out with a similar life to Clark, and at one point him and Lois decide to raise a child, but you know things aren't as as great as they seem, and things from the Phantom Zone kind of like changed things. I don't want to ruin it because it's kind of a good plot point for the story. I just really suggest you guys read it. The artwork is just phenomenal.
There's some great pages in that. I like. Yeah. There was this one page where it was like a side shot of a skyscraper, and you just see Superman like just sitting there, standing there or something.
Yeah, it's constantly. I mean, Adam Kerber is just a master at what he does, and it's just beautiful on each page.
He gets better and better. Like you see artists, they find their groove and they just end up sticking to one. Like they don't feel like they need to up themselves anymore. But I see like a guy in Adam Kerber, and he just keeps growing and growing as an artist. Yeah. Like he's been doing
one great thing about this book is the stuff that shows up in the Phantom Zone. Like when he's in the Phantom Zone, her style kind of changes a little to kind of fit like the craziness of the Phantom Zone. And actually, you can kind of get an idea. It's similar to what you see on the cover in style, but you can kind of see the difference between the two as far as like Superman colored perfect here, and then everything kind of twisted outside of that. Yeah, so it's definitely a book to read, and it's kind of cool that Richard Donner decided to team up with Jeff Johns on this, and you get kind of like the elements of what he kind of incorporated in the first two Superman movies. So it's definitely worth picking up.
And you can feel the hand of like Johns and Donner working well with not just Superman, writing him really well, and the orphan that comes in. His name is
Chris.
Chris.
Yeah.
That's right. But you also see how well they integrate the supporting cast, like Lois, Perry White, I think.
Yeah, Perry's
and everyone in Lex and
what I actually like. Sorry to cut you off there, but what I like too is that he takes him to introduce him to Batman, and that they there is that bond that I think is, you saw it back with the old classic World's Finest of like Superman and Batman hanging out with Robin, and they had this kid with them.
Yeah.
And now like Batman has this kid with them. Now you throw this in there and Superman trusts him because he's Superman and he's always believing in people, and he trusts this little kid. Batman still is like, I don't trust him. They give him a watch to kind of hinder his power so he doesn't go crazy and whatnot.
Okay.
But not go crazy, just like he doesn't know his limits.
Yeah.
But like Robin and him automatically start to have this kinship, which I think is good. That like he builds them into real characters where they feel like they would kind of get along a little bit. Not
they have
so
something
much
to
Batman.
relate to.
Yeah, like they're living this world of bigger than bigger than reality people.
Yeah.
So
that was one of the shining moments for me. Like I like the supporting cast was just as drawn together and given depth as much as Superman and the main cast and the antagonists.
Yeah.
And stuff.
And you could basically expect that from any Jeff Johns book for the most part.
Yeah.
He does like to write to his supporting cast a lot, and this is definitely a book that does that.
And it's a good done in one story. There's not too much in the past you need to read into or not, right?
No, and like I mean, if you're a fan of Superman or know the mythology at all, a lot of the characters that villains and stuff like that pop up. So it's kind of like cool to see that, and it works into the story, and it's just perfect that way.